Friday the 13th is one of the most iconic horror franchises of all time. This can be attributed to its over-the-top and gory kills, awesome music, and its iconic central character, Jason Voorhees. During the height of its popularity, the Friday the 13th franchise produced several movies, toys, video games, and a 3-season television series, which probably shouldn't count, and for close to 20 years was the highest-grossing horror franchise, until Halloween stole its crown in 2018. This might be a surprise to some horror fans, considering the first film's overall quality. For most of the film, nothing happens, the characters are bland and underdeveloped, even by horror film standards. And despite the film sort of presenting itself as if it's a whodunit, the killer is proven to be someone who made no appearance at all throughout the whole film till the end. I mean, everybody knows the killer is Jason's mom, Pamela Voorhees, but I can't imagine people seeing this for the first time, not knowing the outcome and trying to wrap their heads around this reveal. It doesn't really make any sense. This is not a great film, but it's a fun ride. And if it weren't for this movie, the 80s slasher boom might not have happened. So it's forgiven in my book. These 4 films, on the other hand, are good slashers with great death scenes, a scary atmosphere, great music, and stories that are just written better. Slashers are already considered bottom-of-the-barrel horror films, but if you find the right one, you can have a really good time. So I'm gonna go over a few which I think are pretty damn good considering the genre.
From Universal Pictures, rated R.
The first one up is probably the most obscure on here. Literally nobody talks about this film despite it being directed by horror legend Tobe Hooper. The film centers around Amy Harper and her garbage friends who peer pressure her into spending the night inside the funhouse. It's one of those horror films that just keep warning the main characters of the possible danger, but for whatever reason they just ignore all the omens. Amy's explicitly told by her father not to go to the carnival, because of disappearances and things like that. But she doesn't listen to stay in good social standing with her friends. I'm not even sure if she's known this dude for very long, but from the beginning it's clear he's just trying to get her alone. His pal Richie sucks too. It's his idea to spend the night in the funhouse. It's just a really stupid idea to begin with, but it turns out to be a fatal mistake. So it seems like just another run-of-the-mill slasher with dumb teens who ultimately get what they deserve, right? Nah fam. What makes this film a classic is the setting and the villains. The carnival is such an enticing yet creepy setting. The type of folk that run carnivals tend to be at the fringe of society, and thus the film captures that group of people well. The weird genetic mutations, the lurid and shocking sideshow performances, and the unhealthy, grease-covered food are all on glorious display. Not many movies depict the carnival so well. Maybe Something Wicked This Way Comes? Anyway, this feeling of unease builds up during the admittedly slow first half as strange omens begin to build up. This man in the mask is clearly not right, and there's so many strange people it's clearly not a safe place to spend the night, but they do it anyway. Unfortunately, the group witnessed the man in the Frankenstein mask elicit services from the fortune teller. The encounter goes bad, however, and he ends up murdering her. And of course, now being witnesses to murder, they want to get out of the funhouse, but they're locked inside. And while they're looking for an exit, Richie goes into the room where the woman was murdered and steals the carnival's money. And let me just stop here. That has got to be one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever seen anyone do in a horror movie. Alright, so the man in the Frankenstein mask comes back with his father, Conrad, to help dispose of the body when they both realize the money has gone missing. In all the mayhem, it is revealed that the man in the mask is a hideous deformed monster, and things get even worse when Richie exposes their whereabouts when he drops his lighter. Now the group have no choice but to either escape or fight for their lives against these lunatics. This is a very different type of slasher. The killers aren't just some hulking brutes who don't speak. They have discernible personalities. Gunther is in many ways like Leatherface, being a victim of abuse from his family, as well as a violent psycho himself. Conrad doesn't even want to be called father by him. It's very disturbing.
Father. Never call me that. Don't you ever call me that.
I don't know what thing Conrad fucked to create this monster, but it probably wasn't human.
I don't know what that thing is.
And speaking of Conrad, he's a real trifling, evil, manipulative bastard. Just the way he convinces Gunther to kill the teens off is off-putting. He's really creepy.
You will beg for release, but there will be no escape.
It's a creepy film all around. Its focus on dread and the palpable fear from the main characters is really effective. They know they're in danger and are most likely going to get killed. It's just a matter of how and if they can stop it. In most slasher films of the time, the characters aren't even aware they're in danger until it's too late. It's a great film that really does something different with the genre.
Joey! My life.
If you're not back by midnight, you won't be coming home. Rated R.
Prom Night is a more conventional slasher film, but its focus on motive and red herrings automatically makes it a better product. I thought it would be kind of cheating to include a Jamie Lee Curtis movie on here, but I watched Terror Train and it's not all that great. This group of kids, Nick, Wendy, Kelly, and Jude, get this little girl Robin killed, and somebody else is sent to prison for the crime. Little do the kids know, someone else has witnessed the murder. 6 years later, during the week before prom, the same kids are stalked and killed by an unknown assailant. This film is creepy. The killer's phone calls to the group are creepy, the scene with the mirrors breaking is pretty creepy, all the build up to the actual murders are genuinely chilling. It's got a decent line of suspects as well. Is it the escaped killer who was blamed for Robin's death initially? Is it Leslie Nielsen's character avenging the death of his daughter? Or is it this guy, I forgot his name? There's this underlying misery from the deceased Robin's family. Kim and Alex are both forlorn despite the festivities, considering if Robin were still alive, she would be enjoying the proceedings with them. Jamie Lee Curtis is great as Kim in this. She's very confident and showy, in stark contrast to her famous portrayal of Laurie Strode. Kim has this rivalry with Wendy for the affection of Nick. It's kind of funny. If Kim was aware of Nick's involvement in Robin's death, she probably wouldn't have anything to do with him at all. You can really see the guilt racking up in Nick throughout the film. He desperately wants to tell Kim the awful truth, but he never musters up the courage. But if he had, we wouldn't have a movie, so I feel bad for Kelly here. Like, jeez, the sound effect is real. Jesus. The death scenes in this movie are really good. There's not a lot of gore, but with the sound design and execution, it leaves a lot to the imagination and is still very effective. I mean, well, everything except this part. I promise, this chase scene is really riveting, but I'll be damned if that's not the worst cry for help I've ever heard in my life. The truck chase scene is pretty good too, but there's no way nobody heard that, right? The killer in general is so simplistic, from the way he's dressed, to the murder weapon, to his personality. A highly volatile and energetic lunatic, just barely executing these murders successfully. He's not a seasoned stalker like Michael or Jason. He's kind of a fuck-up, actually. This is hilarious. It's not really a shock to find out towards the end who the killer is. They find the other killer in a town 50 miles away, and while Leslie Nielsen's character does disappear during the third of the film, and has a motive probably, there was no way he was doing these kinds of jumps. This movie came out the same year as the original Friday the 13th. It's crazy how much more fleshed out the characters are in comparison. I mean, it's not like these characters are revolutionary or anything, but they have arcs. My favorite out of all these films talked about today. The kills and scares in this film are excellent. The urban legend aspect of the character is implemented so well. It's funny, this came out the same year as Friday the 13th Part 2, and has a similar campfire story and scare scene. The Burning is better. Part of the original Friday the 13th's success was the sensational kills crafted by Tom Savini on display. He famously passed working on Friday the 13th Part 2 to do the effects work in this film. And the kills are awesome. The extraordinarily violent and gruesome deaths got this film placed on the infamous Video Nasties list in the UK. You guys are kind of pussies over there in England, aren't you?
The sort of horrific scenes that I have had to see and other members of Parliament have had to see, I believe they're living in a different world.
Death scenes and gore aren't the only reasons I'd say this film is better. The cast and characters are much more charismatic. The original Friday the 13th cast has basically Alice and Pamela Voorhees as the most recognizable characters, and that's it. Kevin Bacon's character is as dry and boring as they come. Bill, Marcy, and Brenda are flat too. Ned has some personality, but he gets killed early on. Same goes with Annie. Many were fooled into believing that she was the main character, because she's instantly likable and has that sort of charm. But of course she gets killed off like 30 minutes into the movie. The Burning, however, doesn't have a whole lot of likable characters, but they are interesting to watch. There's this weird peeping Tom character called Alfred that of course gets bullied because, he's a creep. He sees the killer early on, but because he's such a loser weirdo nobody takes him seriously. Then there's Glazer. He's an asshole.
Are you crazy? He can't swim. Yeah, I'm crazy. And you better save him.
What a dick.
But his conflict with Alfred is interesting because from my point of view, Glazer has every reason to hate Alfred. He's watching the girls take showers and shit, it's just trifling. But for whatever reason, Camp Counselor Todd just keeps letting Alfred off the hook. The whole movie lets Alfred off the hook. Why is this movie so interested in letting this perverted creep off the hook? The Weinsteins made this movie, so that might be a big issue for some of you out there, but despite the subject matter, it still makes it for a good conflict in my opinion. Pushing that aside, while that is going on, of course, the killer Cropsey is on the prowl looking to get his revenge. Some camp students had burned him alive 5 years earlier, and he was already an evil bastard, but after that, he just starts killing random people. The kids at the camp aren't even the ones responsible for burning him in the first place, except Todd, but Cropsey doesn't even know that. He has this crazy reveal at the end, and I mean, he is fucked up looking. It's all pink and shit, what the fuck? Anyway, another character that I couldn't finish this section without mentioning is Dave, of course, portrayed by Jason Alexander, most famously known for playing George Costanza off Seinfeld and in Duckman. Dave is just a joy to watch. He has all these hilarious one-liners.
Hey, I told you not to beat your schlong last night. It drains your power. I ain't paying for these. You got that? I got that. You motherfucker! Oh, I certainly.
And a Curly impression for some reason, he just chews up whatever scene he's in. It makes it a delight to watch when the kills and horror scenes aren't happening, as opposed to making coffee and killing a real-life snake for no reason.
Take your pick. My Bloody Valentine.
This is the first movie I watched in this video. I'll never forget watching this during downtime in world history class and losing it from the kills. It's excellent. This film probably has the scariest scenes and best build-up. While the killer isn't all that different from Prom Night and Execution, it's just another lunatic in sort of a kinda spooky outfit. Much like its Canuck brother, Prom Night, there's a mystery aspect to the film. It could really be any of the main male characters, but the film leads you to believe the killer is Harry Warden, who 20 years before the events of the film was driven to madness after being trapped in a collapsed mine shaft for 6 weeks and resorting to cannibalism to survive. They had supervisors monitoring the mine shafts, but they left early to attend a dumb Valentine's Day party. I love it when horror movies give creepy backstories to their killers, and Friday Part 2, and The Burning, The Prowler, and of course this film. What makes this particular slasher stand out aside from the glorious kills is the Valentine's Day backdrop. There's a very heated love triangle at the center of the story. This loser TJ basically fails to make a name for himself out of town and comes crawling back home to find his old girlfriend Sarah dating Axel. It being close to a Valentine's Day party only makes the fact that TJ is single more painful. And of course it's not like Axel's gonna just give up on Sarah. But for some reason, Sarah is still sort of leaning towards TJ despite the fact that he totally ditched her in that town, didn't write or anything. And he does try some acting when he apologizes halfway through the movie, but still, screw TJ, he's kind of a turd. But they're really just fodder for the excellent kills on display. I feel bad for Mabel, she just seems so excited for the dance, put all these streamers all over town and then just gets brutally murdered. You can see how distraught the sheriff is afterwards too. The killer starts harassing the police, intending to stop any Valentine's Day dance from happening. But the town's young folk don't heed the warnings. I love the idea of impending doom descending on a group of people that don't deserve it, but were given fair warning.
Oh no! You must not go there!
You gotta watch the unrated version of this movie though. The MPAA cut this film to nothing back when it came out. And if you look at the version that's on HBO Max right now, it just doesn't do the film justice at all. It's really a shame that they put that version on there in the first place. I really can't describe how good the kills in this film are. They're crazy. The makeup effects were done by Thomas Berman, Ken Diaz, and Tom Horber. I don't know how to say that last name. They really put together some great work, just surprising how effective these kills are in comparison to Prom Night or Terror Train, which spends a lot of time cutting away from the actual gore and violence. You're seeing a lot more here. Don't get me wrong, I love the Friday the 13th movies, but these slashers in my opinion have a lot more to offer than the first few. And if you've pretty much seen all you're going to see from the Friday series, these are great movies to watch. These movies were never really given their due, especially The Burning and My Bloody Valentine. 1981 was like oversaturated with horror films. This really hampered the success of these films, and of course they have an established cult following now, but rising horror fans should really give these movies a look-see. So yeah, you know, check them out.
We must all get ready now.